Alright, so we've had a chance to create some motion tweens. In this video, we are going to look at modifying motion tweens. So you can start by drawing something that you want to use, a character, or you can import it. So I am going to go and import mine. So go up to the top of your end of your flash, and you want to go up to where it says File, and you're going to import to stage. Now I'm going to be using a dog, a pretty simple one, so I'm going to import that one. Now it's very large when it comes in, so if we go over to the third one down, our free transform tool, I can resize that dog. Now we want to make sure that it's small enough because I want to put it up top. I'm going to create several copies of these so that we can look at the different ways we can modify our motion tweens. As for a background, again, you can either draw or just import a background because this whole assignment is really just learning how to modify motion tweens. I'm not concerned that you draw your own. So again, we're going to go to File, and I'm just importing. I've saved these two images to my desktop, so to make it easier. And then again, use the free transform tool to resize it to your stage. I'll start there just so I can see how wide it is. Okay, there we go. All right. The next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that our characters are symbols. So if you remember how to convert to symbols, you just drag a box around it, right click, and we want to go down to the bottom where it says convert to symbol, and we can give it a name, and it should be in graphic, and then press OK. Now don't worry too much about the background. If you want to draw your own, you can always change that later on. Now, as I said, we're going to need several copies of this dog. So if to do that, all we have to do is hold down the Alt key and click and drag. And then I can repeat that, holding the Alt key, click and drag. And I'm going to make 6 copies of this. There we go. And now we want to organize each one of those onto to have its own layer down there. So we want to, you can either right click on all the symbols or drag a box around all of them so that they're all highlighted. Right click on any one of those symbols and press distribute to layers. And now you can see I have 6 different dog layers down on the side. Now for our background layer, we also want that to be in our timeline, so we're going to convert that to a symbol as well. So drag a box around it, right click it, convert it to a symbol. I'm going to call this one background. It's already on graphics, so now I just have to right click again and distribute it to the layers. Now I want the background layer to be at the very bottom. Oops, I just hit a lot there. So that the dogs above it are visible. So again, just like in Photoshop, you want to make sure that your visible layers are on top. Now we want to highlight a block of empty frames. So we're going to start at the 2-second mark, and remember there's 24 frames in a second. So if I go to around 48, I'm just going to click and drag all the way back so that they're all highlighted. And then I want to right click and I want to insert frame, much like one of the first steps we did on our previous animations. Now, to avoid your background layer getting moved or displaced or joining up with your other symbols, we're going to press, see where there's a lock symbol here? We're going to press that lock symbol there. So that will just avoid it moving by mistake with the other animals. So to prepare for our motion tweens, we're going to highlight a block of frames on each layer, and we're going to create a motion tween. So let's go from, I highlight from, I'm not going to highlight the background because I don't need a motion on my background. So I'll highlight from there and up. And in fact, there's nothing on layer 1, so I'm not even going to bother highlighting that one. So we'll just go up to there, and then right click and use that top one, create motion tween. Now you'll notice it didn't matter that I started at 20, it made that whole section blue. So as you've seen previously, when you create a motion tween, it's going to do it for that whole block of frames that you've inserted. So now we're going to start with the first dog. So we're going to click on the first one, and we're going to drag that scrubber to 48. So the scrubber was this red line that goes down. So you click on the scrubber and drag it all the way to the end. Okay, and we can see that that layer is now highlighted. It's a bit of a darker blue. And we're going to click and drag this animal all the way to the bottom of the stage. Okay, while the animal, or I shouldn't say animal, while the dog is still selected, change the alpha property to 0%. So it will be over in here. We want to be in properties, and we want where it says style, right now it's on none. We want to change that to say alpha. And then we're going to drag this scrubber all the way down to 0%. Now you'll notice he's disappeared. So if we drag the scrubber in our timeline back to the first frame, you can also press Control Enter to preview and watch what happens as he goes. He slowly disappears. So that is one way to modify your motion tween if you want your character to disappear. Alright, let's go on to our second one. On this one, we're going to be resizing the motion. So again, we're going to drag the scrubber to the end at 40. Oops, I see I clicked. I want to be on him. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, it is. It's just the other dog, first dog's applying that effect. So drag the scrubber to 48. This time we're going to drag the dog, or whatever your character is, to the bottom of the stage. Don't go below the stage. And we're going to use the free transform tool to resize the character. So again, remember the free transform tool is that third arrow down. And I'm going to, you can either make the animal grow or shrink. I'm going to make the animal grow. Okay, he's going to get bigger. So again, drag your scrubber back to frame 1 and press Enter to preview. There we go. In the next one, we're going to click on the third one now. This one we're going to ease in. It's called easing in. So just much like the first two, oops, I'm going to, oh, my scrubber's already at 48, so that's good because that's where I ended on my preview mode. Drag your character to the bottom of the stage. And now we're going to click on the tween path of the stage. which is this line here. So we're going to click that line, and now we've got this ease in the properties show up. So we want to change this ease to -100, and I can click and drag. So to get to -100, click and drag to the left. So you get to all the way to -100. And then drag your scrubber back to frame 1 and press enter to see what happened. What you'll notice is he starts out slow and then he starts to pick up speed. So that's what easing in is. It's when you start slow and then you pick up some speed there. So we're going to do the opposite now. On the fourth one, we're going to ease out. We're going to start fast and then go slow. So again, now that we're there, make sure your scrubber is on the end of your scene, so at 48. So again, click and drag. Oops. Move it to the bottom. Oopsies, I don't want to drag that piece. Drag your character to the bottom of the stage. And then again, click on that path to highlight that line to make so that we can change the ease. This time we're going to click and drag it all the way to the right until it's at positive 100. Okay, so drag your scrubber back to the first frame and then press enter to preview. I'm going to go back and press enter to preview again. This time I'm just going to come up top more so we can see. So it starts fast and then it slows down. So that's what we call easing out. All right, and now we're going to go on to the fifth one. So click on your fifth dog or character. Make sure your scrubber is at the end. And this time, let's start by dragging them down again to the bottom of the scene. And this time we're going to hover over this tween path until you see an arc. So right now it just has that move symbol. I want to hover, just going to go up a little bit here, until I see an arc. Is my arc not showing up? Oh, I might need to be, I'm on a free transform. I probably need to be on that selection tool maybe. Curves that line, and I can curve it a lot. See, now that I'm off of the background, which kind of blended in with the grass, you can see it off in the gray there. That's the little line to the right of the arrow. That's the curve we're looking for in order to bend this line. And I can bend it up or I can have it bend down. So that allows you to curve your tween. So, and I can also, in the properties, I can change how it rotates as many times as you want. So I can choose the direction of rotation. That would be might need to. Nope. Okay, let's just go back to frame 1, press enter to preview that. Okay, so it is following that arc. That is good. Let's click on that line. So if you click on the line itself, on the tween line itself, you can here change the rotation. Do you want it going clockwise, counter, or counterclockwise at all? So let's just see what that looks out. I'm going to rotate them clockwise. You can say the number of times that you want it to rotate. So let's say it rotates 3 times. And let's go back to frame 1 and press enter to preview. So now he spins 3 times in a clockwise direction. So not only can you curve his path, you can have him spin along that path if you choose. Alright, now we can also, on our last one, create a custom path, which is quite time-saving so that you don't have to go in the timeline as we've done in the past and slowly moved and positioned our character in places. So for this one, we're going to use the pencil tool. I've got it on yellow. I'm just going to, oops. Okay, that didn't work. Just make sure that you can't draw on your symbol layer. You got to be on your layer 1. If you don't have a layer 1, just go down to the bottom and the left there. You can create a new layer, and then you'll be able to do that. So I'm just going to move my scribber so it's out of my way. But I want to make sure that I'm highlighted on the layer 1 is highlighted. And now I can click and I can draw a custom path. It has to be all in one motion. I can make little loop-de-doos. Okay, and then with the arrow tool selected, double click that line so that it selects it all, and then we want to copy that. So on a Mac it's Command C, and you guys, you can also even just go up to Edit, Copy, and then we want to cut that line out. So again, on a Mac it's Command X. For you guys, you can also go up to Edit as well. Now click anywhere on that final layer for your character, and we want to paste it in there. So I'm going to Command V. I had a little bit of a choppy. I don't have a mouse, so they're just going to optimize that path, so I can press OK. So now that that path is pasted in there, I can go back to frame 1, press enter, and I can preview how that character goes a little crazy following that custom path. Another thing that you can do is we can change the properties of the character itself. So I'm going to, if I click on your last character there, and in the properties section, we want to change the tint so that we change the color of it. So in color effect right now, over here, it says none. We're going to change the tint. And we can choose what color I want it to become. So maybe I have it become green. And I can also change the percentage as well. So that was 68%. If I go to 80% versus a 30%, you can see the 30% is a much darker color. So if I keep a high percentage, it almost goes like fluorescent. So maybe I'll go 50%. So just another way you can change those properties. So if you drag your scrubber back to frame 1, press enter. As he goes through that path, he slowly changes his color. If we want to add a pause at the end, we can highlight a block of frames and for the background as well as all of the animal layers. So I'm going to start just at here. Okay, and I'm going to highlight all the way back. And I'm going to right click again and insert frame. Okay, so now I have a new frame. Now if I click off of it, you'll notice they're connected, but there's these black dots. That was where my motion tween that I modified is ending. So after this point, and they're all in position, there's going to be a pause here. And that's just so that it doesn't start repeating really fast again. So we can go back to frame 1, press enter to preview, and just gives us that final end. If you want to go on and try some additional things, you can, well, in fact, just so that we know for future what you've done, should you be looking at these, we're going to go and add the T for text. I'm going to choose a color that's nice and visible. I'm going to stick with that bright green, I think. And I'm going to make sure that you're on not a symbol layer. In fact, I'm just going to add a new layer, totally separate. And on the first one, oh, my size is quite large, so I'm going to decrease that. Try 20. And I will have to move that onto my pasteboard. So I'm just going to re-click over here. That's about there. And the first modification we did was called an alpha. The second change in our motion tweens we did was for size. The third modification we did was to ease in. And then we did an ease out. And then we did a rotate. And then finally we did, I'm going to change the color on this one because he was completely different. We did a custom path. And now I'm just going to use that move tool so I can position these a little bit better. So now when I go back to the beginning and press enter, I can see which each path was doing. And that's the end. So I hope you learned a little bit on how you can customize your own motion tweens. Thanks for watching.